Today we're at the Bellevue Art Museum, and we're here as part of a multicultural diversity experience. My group's called the Hip Hop Handbook, and we travel around the country going to different schools and boys and girls clubs across the nation. Teaching the history of hip hop and giving workshops and assemblies for kids in the different elements of hip hop, which are DJing, breakdance, MCing.
Every scratch has a name. So speaking of names, let's introduce you. What is your name, lady?
Well, I think it's important to show kids that there are a lot of positive ways to express yourself. And being here at the Arts Museum, it's all about creativity and expression. And the group that went before us was an African drummer group. And so that showed people the traditional perspective. And now we showed how some of the same elements, the drumming and the dance, have been reinvented and reworked and been played with up until this very day, of people from all walks of life.
So forward and back. Okay, so go ahead and just push like your back and forward. Okay, so you guys nice. We got a scratch.
It seemed like a pretty positive response. We worked with the audience the whole time, so there was a lot of call and response throughout the show. And then we had some of the audience members volunteer to come up and try out the DJing and learn some of the breakdance moves. So instead of just talking to the audience or doing a show, we actually worked with the audience and created something with that audience. It creates a unique show.
And go down to one knee. Yeah. Got that? So go ahead and spin and go down. Very good.
I think it's important that the kids were in the audience today because there's a lot of negativity associated with hip hop, and people don't often create a counter argument to that. And hip hop started with young people, mostly in poverty, being creative and coming up with ways to rise above that poverty and express themselves. And so it gives kids something else besides what's fed to them every day through the mainstream media. And it shows them that they can start from the ground level with their own creativity and make their own hip hop. I think that's where it starts. It starts at a young age. When I was 6 or 7, I wanted to be a rock star when I grew up. And as I got older, I started getting involved with teaching. And so I'm doing what I wanted to do when I was 6 or 7 years old. So I think that's when people have their dreams. And then if you can avoid getting them completely crushed by the time you're an adult, then you just take those dreams, those things that made your eyes twinkle when you were a child, and run with it. And the sooner you get into it, the better. You know, to get into hip hop to try breakdancing when you're 50 versus when you're 7, it's a different learning curve. So, but I'd still recommend it. There's actually a lady over in Europe. She's the breakdancing granny, and she just got into it at about 60 or 70 years old, and she's actually pretty good. So I wouldn't cut anybody out of hip hop, but the sooner you get into it, the better, and it becomes part of your skin.
Everybody say free!
It's definitely strenuous, so you have to stay in shape, and we spend a lot of time focusing on our diet, what kind of protein and carbs. We definitely get the exercise that we need just as part of the culture and the lifestyle, so we don't really worry too much about how many minutes we're dancing. We just have fun with it. And that differentiates it from running on a treadmill. You know, when you're running on a treadmill, you're timing, you're like, when is my 20 minutes going to be up? When you're dancing, 2-3 hours could go by, and you're not even really aware of it because you're just having fun and enjoying yourself. And I think that's how exercise should be. It should just be fun, part of your life. The reason I'm still doing what I'm doing is because it's about giving back. Growing up, I had a lot of people give me opportunities to either perform or just give a helping hand in different ways. And this is one way that we can reach out that gets kids interested. And if you get interested in something, it's going to keep you out of other things, negative things. When you're talking about hip hop, you're talking about community. You're talking about a culture. It's not just you dancing in the closet, or you could practice that way, but ultimately you're part of a bigger community, which means you're part of a bigger responsibility and maintaining that community. So it's just me giving back to that same community and trying to create the experience that I had when I was young, when I saw my first hip hop show or I saw my first breakers. So it's just part of that continuous cycle that keeps feeding back to itself.